we are going to start actually at the bottom of 59b by Gufa, the last 3 lines, I think, 4 lines, whatever it is. Okay, so yesterday what we talked about is we did the whole comparison of Nedarim to Truma, and it was very interesting because part of the question was like, how is it that you can compare Truma to Nedarim? It's like it's really not 2 things that are comparable, but it all winded down to the fact that you could be shoel for one or for the other. We continued like by talking about when you're planting truma and at a different time, like afterwards, like it's like, you've given truma to the Kohen, and then like you take some of like whatever it was that was given and you plant it. And what happens then? Are you allowed to actually benefit from what it is that is growing or not? So that's where we're at. Okay, Gufa. Amar Rabbi Hanina tirta'a, Amar Rabbi Yanai. So you have like, Rabbi Hanina tirta, and he says, Batsal shel truma sheneta'o. So if you have like an onion that was originally like picked for truma, and it's planted, and usually when it's planted, we're referring to like it being planted in like the 6th year of like Shemitah. Verabu gidulav al ikaro mutar. And so if there are new growth that actually come out from like this onion that is being planted, then you are actually allowed to benefit from it, and you're allowed to eat it. Lememra gedule. So we say that like, these growth, hitar me'alin et ha'isur. So is it actually, are they conducive to actually cancel whatever it is that was forbidden to begin with, because the onion was truma. So this root, this onion, technically should be actually forbidden. Vehatnan, so we have a Mishnah, which is actually in Truma, Gidule Truma, Truma. So whatever comes out of like a vegetable that is, or fruit, or whatever it is that was picked as Truma, actually is considered to be Truma. So then, if that's the case, how is it possible that it could batel like whatever it was that was planted? Begidule gidulin kamrinan. So the way that Rabbi Yanai is actually looking at it is we talking of the growth of the growth. So the first one, right, so it's like the first ones that actually grow from the truma vegetable is actually asur. And so Hanami Tanina, we have in this Mishnah that we saw in 57, Gidule Gidulin Chulin. So we say that whatever grows from this truma is actually chulin. It's not truma. So then what is it that we're trying, that Rabbi Yanai is actually teaching us, because they're not, we're not allowed to actually benefit from them. Afilu bedavar she'en zar'o kale. So even if it's something, so we had like 2 different like categories. We had the categories of vegetables where the seeds actually decomposed, and then you have so that was wheat, barley, and fruit, right? And you have those where the seeds actually did not decompose, such as the onion, right? So the difference is that like when you're talking about the ones that do not deteriorate, so such as the onion, then whatever it is that grows from the root, even if it's truma, is actually allowed. And then it's going to batel like, the rest, because it's going to be in the midst of everything else. Vehatnan, so we learned from another Mishnah, which is also like in truma, Hatevel gidulav mutarin. So when you're talking about tevel, hi Hanan, we're like at the very top of 60a. We're finishing the parak. Vehatnan, Tevel gidulav mutarin. So when you're talking about tevel, then technically whatever grows from this is actually allowed to be eaten. Bedavar shizar'o kale. So, and this is like referring to produce such as the onion, where the seed, such as like the what I mentioned before, which was not the onion. I'm sorry, it was the wheat, the barley, or the fruit. Okay, so that these are actually allowed. Bedavar shezar o kale. But with those, when they don't actually deteriorate and they don't decompose, such as like the onion, gidule gidulin asurin. So whatever comes out of like whatever it is that you have, like the root that you have planted, the next generation that comes out of it, then you are not allowed to actually eat them, and you're not allowed to have any ana from them. So if you compare this to the truma, then that's different from whatever it is that Rabbi Yanai said, because Rabbi Yanai said that whatever it is that grows from a produce that you have planted, which was truma to begin with, is not permitted. So what does the Gemara answer? Rabuya de rabu gidulin al ikaro mutar kemashmalan. Rabbi Yanai says that the only time when you actually are allowed to benefit from it is when the root actually, when whatever it is that grows exceeds the root. So that's like, that's the difference. Hadran alach anuder min hayarak. Okay, so we're starting a new perek, and in
before
this
going on, I'll just say that Steinsaltz
sure.
has a halachic comment that all of these restrictions on growths and growths of growths are rabbinic.
Well, yeah, it's yeah, it's not obvious, but yes, it is rabbinic. It is not the Oraita. So yeah. That's what we see. He's the one who actually, Rabbi Yanai is the one who actually is established this Mishnah. So he's the one that actually said that it was that you were not allowed to actually have it. Okay, so this new perek is actually talking about time limits, which is very interesting because this is something that since the beginning of Nedarim really has been like on my mind about how long is it that a neder actually lasts for, and what are the implications of such. So we start with a Mishnah. So you have someone who decides, I am not going to be drinking any wine today. Okay. So, and then it's like, and it's in regard specifically to the fact that he's going to be tasting it. So there's like, there's a difference in between just drinking and tasting. Okay, because like it would be more, it's more restrictive than it would be if it was just drinking. So what are we referring to? If he says hayom, it means for the entire day, and it means up until like tzeta kochavim. Okay, in asur ela ad shete ashach. So it's like he's not allowed to have any kind of wine or any of its derivative up until nighttime. Okay, Shabbat zo. And if he says that actually he is not going to be having any wine for the week, then it would include Shabbat. Asur bechol ha-Shabbat, because we know that the week includes like, goes up until Shabbat. So it would be up until like the end of the Shabbat she'avra. And so if it was, even if it would not be included the Shabbat before, but the Shabbat that is coming. So if you do it on Monday and you said, I'm not going to be having any wine for the rest of the week, then it would include Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Shabbat up until the end of Shabbat. Okay. And that,
it's not like from the week, if he makes the neder on Monday, it doesn't go to the next Monday.
No, it does not. It ends at Shabbat, because Shabbat is the end of the week.
So if he makes it on Friday afternoon for this week, it's really like for the day or something.
If he does it on Friday afternoon for the week, then it still ends on Shabbat, on at the end of Shabbat, Motzaei Shabbat. So that's the end. It's like, I mean, it's not very long, but it's like that's what it is. Chodesh Zeh, if he says that he actually is prohibited from having any wine for a month, Asur bechol hachodesh. So he's not allowed to have any kind of wine or a wine derivative, depending on if he says that he's drinking or tasting for the entire month. And the month, of course, is like the Jewish month, Verosh Chodesh lehaba. And so when comes the following Rosh Chodesh, that doesn't fall into it because it's like, the end of the month is like the day of the end of like before Rosh Chodesh. Shana Zo, so what?
2-day Rosh Chodesh. I think the first Rosh Chodesh day is really like the end of the first month or something, right, Charlie?
Well, just like now when we have 2 days of Rosh Chodesh, where today is the end of the month and tomorrow is the first day of the month. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it would still count today. It just would not count tomorrow.
Right.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. Okay, Shanazo, someone who decides that he's not going to be having any wine during the year, that's a long time, Asur bechol hashana. So he's like, he cannot have any wine for the rest of the year. The Rosh Hashanah le'atid lavo. But when Rosh Hashanah is like the new year, so we don't need to count it. It's like, it's part of the, obviously, of the new year. Shavua Zeh. So if one says that he's not going to have wine for the entire Shemitah cycle, that's 7 years, that's quite a bit of time. Asur bechol hashavua. So he's not allowed to have any wine for the entire 7 years. Ushevit she'avra. And then when we have the year of Shemitah that comes, it's actually one of the years that was taken into consideration in the cycle before that, and it actually falls into it. So you have a whole 7 years that you're not allowed to be drinking wine, and so that's what it would be for him. Just give me 1 second. Yeah, okay, right. Because the Shemitah year is like the end of the cycle. Okay. Ve'im amar yom echad. So if he says, I will not have any wine for like just 1 day, and then, or if he said, Shabbat achat, 1 week, Chodesh echad, 1 month, Shana achat, 1 year, Shavua echat, like the 7-year cycle of Shemitah, Asur miyom liyom. So in this case, he has like from the day that he started until the day like that is corresponding at the end of the cycle. So
that would be like my case before Monday,
right.
Monday through Sunday night or something. Monday.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So this the length of time is like an equal amount of time. So it's like 24 hours, or it's like 7 days specifically. And so we see that it's a difference in terms of like how he said it. In the beginning of the Mishnah, we said that he's not going to be drinking hayom. Okay, hayom, meaning today. Here he said yom echad, 1 day. So that's not the same. That's the difference in the language that tells us like what is like how long the neder is actually going to be taking effect for. Ad apesach asur ad ashkia. So if someone says, I'm not going to be drinking wine up until Pesach, so then he's not going to be allowed to drink any wine up until the beginning of Pesach. So which is like, start at nighttime on the evening. Ad sheyehe asur ad sheyetze. But if someone says, I am not going to be allowed to have any kind of wine up until the end of Pesach, then it's like it lasts the entire time of the Chag, which is like actually problematic because we know that you're supposed to have the Arba Kosot and all of that. So let's see how that's going to unravel. Ad lifnei Pesach. If someone says, I am not going to have any kind of wine up until like before Pesach, Rabbi Meir Omer, Asur ad Shgia. So Rabbi Meir, for him, he says that it goes up until actually Shkia. So really that's like, that night. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Asur ad Shiyatse. And then as far as Rabbi Yossi is concerned, it actually is like not only until like the time that Pesach arrives, but it includes all of Pesach together. Because as far as he's concerned, he says that like you can't actually possibly say just like before that you're going to do it on Petel right before. It doesn't make any sense because the Chag kind of like starts already like in the afternoon. Okay, Konamia. So let's see what the Gemara has to say about all of this.
Before you go on,
yeah,
on the a couple things. This year, Rosh Hashanah is not uniquely defined. There are 3 or 4 of them, and
okay.
One Nisan is also an important Rosh Hashanah for some things.
So I guess this is why like the Mishnah specifically goes into Pesach also specifically, rather than just leaving it, at just talking about Rosh Hashanah. You're right. There are more like than one. There's 4. But
right.
the 2 that we most commonly talk about is Rosh Hashanah as we know it in Elul and Rosh Hashanah as we know it in Nisan. But right. Here in the Mishnah, the first Rosh Hashanah, I would say that it refers to the Rosh Hashanah in Elul, the beginning of the year as we define it, and then specifically he goes into Pesach. So because he understands that Pesach is also a very specific time of the year that we should be talking about.
But I think we're talking about what people commonly say. We're talking about common usage of language.
Right.
So it says Rosh Hashanah, Ad Rosh Hashanah. We're just going by what people commonly mean by that.
Right. However, the year used to be incremented on 1 Nisan.
Right, I understand, but this is all about...
but it's like Hanan is right. Nedarim are predicated on the way that people were talking, like the general language that they were using.
Yeah.
So,
so if you're saying this year in the secular calendar, it as late as the 1750s, that was in use. So it might actually, depending what the meaning was. The other thing is that the mitzvah to drink wine on a Pesach Seder is rabbinic, and when you have made a neder, you have obligated yourself biblically. So you've just obligated yourself biblically to not fulfill a positive rabbinic commandment, which is the kind of thing I would think they would want you to get annulled.
Well, regardless, you want to have a neder annulled. That's what we saw at the end of last parak.
Yeah.
Is that like, not actually getting your neder annulled is as if you were like offering a korban on the bama, which was the worst possible thing, right? Yep. So it's like it's expected that you're going to at one point or another going to go to a chacham and get it annulled.
Unless you don't want to drink wine on Pesach.
There's always grape juice, right? Well, but it depends. If he said just wine, or he said like, that he couldn't taste it, then he wouldn't be able to get any grape juice either. Okay, so let's see if the Gemara has any more to say about this. Okay, so where am I? Okay, cool. What?
The beginning of the Gemara.
Yeah.
Yes.
So konam yayin she'ani to'en. So when he says, I am not allowed to have any kind of like wine in terms of like of the taste of like actually of the wine, and if he says that it's like only for today, then it lasts up until nightfall. Okay. אמר רבי ירמיהו לחשתי חשך צריך שאלה לחכם. Okay. Then, as far as Rabbi Yirmiyah is concerned, it doesn't matter that the day is over at nightfall and his neder has like is supposed to be done by that time. As far as he's concerned, he still needs to go and talk to a chacham and get his neder annulled altogether. Okay. So it's like he has to, this way it's like, he's in the clear. My tama, so why is it that we say that he has to go and get his neder annulled? Amar Rav Yosef gezerah hayom mishum yom echad. This is because, like, he specifically said that his neder was like going to take place for this day, right? And as far as the Rabbanan actually are concerned, a day lasts 24 hours. We saw before that when he said hayom, that actually it should like end at Shkia, right? But because Rabbanim said that the day lasts 24 hours, it really doesn't end at Shkia if he decided at 2 o'clock in the afternoon that he's not going to have any wine or their derivatives. So this is the reason why Rabbi Yirmiyah said that he has to go and to get a chacham to annul his vow. Amarle, so Amarle, so you have Abaye that actually is talking to Rav Yosef. So if that's this way, so then that's really a big, there's a big difference in between saying today and saying this day, because it's not really the same amount of time, right? So that's kind of like, that's kind of like confusing that we're talking about today and then we're talking about one day. So ligzor beyom echad mishum hayom. So then they should actually say that it's like the neder is like one day, but that should not really end at the end of like that day, but that it should like really last like the 24 hours. So this is why the Rabbanim have said that you have to go and get it like annulled at the end of the day if you had said hayom. Otherwise, it stays in effect for the entire 24 hours. Amarle, so this is Rav Yosef talking, hayom beyom echad michalef. So you actually do, this is what I was just saying, that it can be confused one day with today. And so it would be easier, like people would say, it's going to end at nighttime. And then Rabbanim are thinking that it's not ending at nighttime because you have to count the 24 hours. Yom echad behayom lo michalaf. So you should not be confusing today with one day with today, because the in one day it automatically is going to last like 24 hours. But today you only want the neder to apply up until the end of the night. Okay, so Amar Ravina, Amar li meremar, Achi Amar avur mishme davar de Rav Yosef. Okay, so this is the way that, like, Ravina is talking about, like, how it's like the meremar told him about Rav Yosef's father. Keman azla shemate de Rav Yirmiyah bar Abba. So who is it that is actually the Rav Yirmiyahu bar Abba? He's like, he agrees with whom? Ke Rabbi Natan. So we go back to Rabbi Natan, who was the Tana of like the Mishnah from the last Mishnah that we saw, not today's Mishnah. De Tanya, Rabbi Natan Omer, Kol hanoder ke'ilu bana bama. Rabbi Natan said, anyone who actually does any kind of neder, it's as if he had built a bama. That's pretty big. Ve'hamekaymo ke'ilu maktir alea, and anyone who completes his vow, it's as if he had actually offered a korban on that bama. So it's like, when you talk about this, it's like, yeah, you should run to a chacham and get your neder annulled as soon as it is possible to do, because this is not something that you actually want to happen. It's really like not a good thing. Okay. So this is why the chachamim are really intent on you going to someone to get your neder annulled. Shabbat zo asur bechol
before building bambo is something that is condemned over and over and over again in Nach. So this is a really big deal that they're saying this.
Well, since there's no Bet HaMikdash, we're not allowed to have any such things. So it's like, why would these people actually yeah, so it is a very, very big deal.
Yeah.
Because they're saying it's a chumrah. You're doing extra mitzvot, so to speak, that you're not really supposed to be doing.
Well, the thing about building a bama, once the Beit HaMikdash was established, is that you're basically denying the centrality of authorities.
Right, that's true, but it's also you're doing your own thing.
You're doing your own thing. Yeah, you're creating your own Torah, which is not the Torah that came from.
But you're doing your own thing, and Neder is also you're doing your own thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yes. Yeah, we don't want you to be doing that. It's not a good thing.
Rabbis don't like it when you do your own thing.
What?
Rabbis don't like it when you do your own thing.
No, they don't. But it's like Nedarim in general are not things that are like, that are considered to be a good thing.
Yeah, well, obviously we're doing them, so there's a whole parak on it.
Yeah, I mean, this is why we spend our time saying Bli Neder.
Yeah.
Because, we say things, and the way that we say it could be, taken by someone as if you were actually trying to say that you're going to be doing something or other, which committing to that thing, and you don't want to be placed into this situation. Okay. Shabbat zo asur bechol Shabbat kula. If someone said this week, right? So it includes the entire week, whatever, whenever it is that you said that, up until Shabbat and up until the end of Shabbat. Shita, as far as the Gemara is concerned, it's like, it's obvious that Shabbat should be included. Why? Because Shabbat is part of the week that is just ended. So the thing is like that he's not allowed to drink wine on Shabbat, which is not really a mitzvah. It's something that is like, it's a good thing to drink wine on Shabbat, but nobody said that you have to, right? So why is it that we actually need to repeat it? Mahu de tema yome de Shabta ke amar. You could have said actually this week. And when you said this week, you would have only included the weekdays. You wouldn't have included Shabbat in it. Kemashmalan, this way, the Mishnah is actually telling us that it's including like the Shabbat that is coming, that is upcoming as well. Okay, so do we do the next case actually? Okay, yeah. So, chodesh ze asur bechol hachodesh verosh chodesh le'aba. So when we're talking this person says, I'm not going to be drinking any kind of wine for the month this month, right? So he cannot drink any wine during all of the month. But when it comes to actually Rosh Chodesh is like the start of the new month. So that is not counted as like part of the month. Pshita, so here also it's something that is obvious that Rosh Chodesh is like the first day of the month. So it's like, it's not counting because it goes like, it goes together with the month that is upcoming. So why is it that we need to actually specify that the neder is actually up to this month, does not include Rosh Chodesh? So what it says is, so what happens if we're like in a month, that's what we were saying with Hadan before, that what is a month that is like a short month of 29 days, right? Rosh Chodesh is going to be 2 days. It's going to be the last day and the first day, right? And so so the current month
right
is
now.
like, huh?
Yeah.
Like right now, yesterday and
Like
today.
right now, exactly, right? So if you have like 30 days, and then the Rosh Chodesh is going to be 2 days. So the first day of Rosh Chodesh is the last day of the month, and the second day of Rosh Chodesh is the first day of the new month. מהו דתימה ראש חודש לשעבר havela ליצר. So you would have said that actually the first day of Rosh Chodesh is actually part of the month that is ending, the month before, and then this way you would say that it would fall under the neder, and you would not be able to drink wine during that day. כמשמלן קראו אנשי רש ירח. So this way, what the Mishnah is telling us, that the 30th day was actually the beginning of the month, because that's when the month they would see like it's a full month. And so the first day of the month that actually is a full month, when you have 2 days of Rosh Chodesh, is not included in the neder, because it still is a part of like the month that is ending, so that it kind of like can make it whole.
This is kind of a strange one about Rosh Chodesh, because this would have, the Mishnah would have been written at a time when we were still declaring new moons.
Right.
So they're basically saying that even if they don't get the new moon declared, your neder has expired.
No, is that what I couldn't quite? Is that what they're saying? That in
1 second, let me reread it. The first day of Rosh Chodesh, right? You might have said the first day of Rosh Chodesh is counted with the month that is preceding and should fall in the within the neder. But when people call the 30th day of the full month the beginning of the month, it means that it's part of the next month. No, so I am wrong. I apologize. The first day of the 2-day Rosh Chodesh actually is not counted in the neder. Right. So you're both right and I'm wrong. Okay.
But that kind of makes sense, even though it is part of the month, but that's not what you mean when you say Chodesh is you mean up to Rosh Chodesh, whatever day that is.
Right.
That's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. That would be the common.
And unless you're in Jerusalem, you are not going to know, maybe for several days, when the month has begun, back at the time of the Mishnah.
Right.
Gemara speaking here, yeah. But
yes,
that's right.
I don't know when this Gemara was written. This could have been any time in over a 300-year period.
Yeah.
Okay. Shana zu asur bechol hashana kula. So when we're talking about like not drinking wine for an entire year, so he's not allowed to drink wine for the entire year up until the beginning of Rosh Hashanah. So we want to know. So if you have wine that you say it's like it's asur to me in terms of like tasting it, right, for a day, then what is the halacha here? Is it like today, or is it like for 1 day? Which we see the difference was because before, like the day is like today, and so it would end at like nightfall, but it's like for the day that would be 24 hours. So that's that would be the difference. Tashma matnanitlin. So let's see how we're going to resolve this. Konam yain she'ani to'em hayom en asur ela ad shete'eshach. So wine that would be konam to me, like in terms of like my tasting it today. So that's like, like we learned before, that means that it's up until nightfall, and that's where it ends. Hayom ke yom echad dame. And so when we say a day, when we don't say when we say hayom, when we don't say like a day, then it actually would be 24 hours. So when you say hayom keyom echad dameh, it's like, it's a similar way of describing it. One day is 24 hours, but today is actually up until nighttime. So we have to have a specific way of saying it, so that we know that when we say a day, it's like today, and that it's going to be ending like at the end of the night. Ema Seifa. So when we look at the last thing that the Mishnah was talking about, Amar Yom Echad Asur Miyom Leyom. So the wine, shall be konam upon me in terms of tasting it for one day. Then he is not allowed to drink any wine from the time that he said, from the day that he said that he's not going to be drinking it, until this day is finishes the entire period of time that we're talking about. So when we say one day, it's 24 hours. Ha yom ke hayom dameh. And if he says a day instead of one day, then it would end it would be the same as if he said today, and it would end at nightfall. So that means that if he says ke hayom dameh, it's the same thing as if he was saying hayom. Okay, so this is a little bit different from the way that we actually started. Ela mehaleka le mishma mina. So it's we can't we can't see any resolution here. So we're going to bring another Mishnah to actually see if that's going to help us out. Amar Rav Ashi Tashma. So he's going to teach us from a Mishnah which is actually further into Nedarim. Konam yayin she'ani to'em ashana. So when you say wine is konam to me, in terms of tasting it for the year, hashana, okay? Nid abara ashana asurba uve ibura. So what happens if you have a leap year where you have 13 months, right? So it's because the year is going to be extended. So are you not allowed to drink for the 13 month? So that's what it is. It's it's ashana. It's the entire year. Achidami. So what is this case here? Hilema ke kidktane. So it's when he said that he doesn't want to have any wine for the year. Lama lilimemra. So is it actually, do you need to actually specify, I don't want to have any wine for this year, including the extra month that we're going to have? I mean, as far as we're concerned, when we say this year, with whatever year it is, it includes the extra month that is being added. Elalav de Amar Shana. So we want to know, maybe it is that here we're talking about a year that says the year, this year. So in this Mishnah, what it would say, it says that a year means this year and not 1 year. So that would be specifically, he would not be allowed to drink during the time of the calendar year. And he's not talking about a 12-month period, which is what we would have said, in the beginning of the Mishnah.
Yeah, but this Mishnah, I mean, our Mishnah says Shana Zu, the guy said, right?
Right.
Yeah, which says this year. But Hashana is just another way of saying that, basically. So I don't think we can make a difference. I mean,
well, it makes a difference because Shana Zu would end whenever the year ends, right? Yeah. It would end at Rosh Hashanah. But if he says Ashana, it could count a 24, it could count 12 months.
I mean, if I say Hashanah, maybe I'm just overlaying it with modern Hebrew, but Hashanah more indicates this year than it does 1 year.
Right. I mean, to us nowadays, that's what it means.
Right, but it's more like that than it is Shana Achat, which is one calendar, one full year, so to speak. 12 month, whatever. 12
right. All right, I went further than I should have because this continues about the Shana. I'm going to end here and we can restart actually, we can redo like the last paragraph tomorrow. Can you do it at 7:30 in the morning?
7:45 maybe, 7:30.
I go for 7:45.
7:45? Okay,
Yeah.
fine. All right, let's do 7:45 then.
One thing about the Rav Ashi and the years, by the time that he was a rabbi, they had determined the permanent calendar. So anybody who is saying this year would have known or been able to know that whether it was a leap year or not in terms of months. And that would not have been known at the time in the Mishnah.
Right, but people when they say that, they don't always think about it. You know, a lot of people, I mean, not everybody even knows, even though you can know, not everybody knows which years are leap years and which years are not.
I had to think about it today when I was davening the Musaf. Is
I know.
a leap year or not?
No, I know. So that's what I'm saying. Not everybody, even though you can know it, it's knowable, but not everybody thinks about it, you know.
The other thing is, I don't know how common there seems to be some evidence that a lot of the Jews use the common, not necessarily the Roman calendar, but the Greek calendar at that time. But that would require some more research to figure that out.
Yeah, that too. Yeah. All right. Shavua Tov.
Shavua Tov.
Yasher Koach, Miriam.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
You tomorrow at 7:45.